Welcome to session 4. This is with Bernadette Valenzuela, Food for Thought, Food Trucks and Book Intersect. Right now is 1:10. We'll be getting started in 5 minutes. Welcome to session 4. My name is Larry Snyder, and we are going to be starting this session with Bernadette Valenzuela, Food for Thought, Food Trucks and Book Intersect. So we'll be getting started straight up at 1:15. Welcome to session 4. We have our very own Bernadette Valenzuela. Food for thought. Food trucks and book intersect. A fun way to excite students about books. Let's get this started.
Hi, I'm Bernadette Valenzuela. Thank you for joining me today for my presentation on food for thought. Food trucks and books intersect. Just a little bit about me. As I said before, my name is Bernadette Valenzuela. I have taught in the public schools, mostly high school level, for 17 years as an English teacher, ninth grade through 10th grade. I also taught speech, ninth through 12th grade, creative writing, ninth through 12th grade, and a little bit of dual credit English, which is the college level, and senior English. Now that I'm a librarian at Western Hills Elementary, I was hired in November, so I don't quite have a year yet, but I have worked with pre-K through 5th grade, so you can say that now I have experience in teaching literacy for pre-K all the way through college level English. So here's what is on the agenda for today, what's on the menu, so to speak. I'm going to first talk about the idea of the food truck fair, how I came up with where I got this idea from. Of course, I didn't make up this idea. As you know, a lot of us teachers, we borrow from others, and I'll show you exactly where I got the idea from. I'll show you how I used it with my own high school students when I worked at Mission Early College High School and how they presented their food trucks and how we had a fair there. And then I'll show you how I've adapted the assignment for elementary level for 5th graders. So you can see that this assignment is truly adaptable for different levels. I can say that you can probably go as low as 2nd grade with this project all the way up into the high school level. And so first, before we get into what this food truck entails, I just want to start with the rationale of why we even have students partake in creative assignments like a food truck fair. And so I'm just pulling a quote out of an article by Dawn DePriest. This is from NEA.org, 2017. And here she mentions the importance of creativity, and the article is all about why we should incorporate creativity in the classroom. And it says here, creativity involves all your senses and creates new knowledge that didn't exist before. Students of all ages need to learn by creating. It helps to synthesize information and bring joy and meaning into their educational experience. So I myself felt the need to add something to my classroom when I felt that my lessons were a little bit stale. And I turned to a website, which I will show you in a bit, to get some inspiration and creativity. I found was that ingredient that I was missing in my classroom. And when you involve students' creative juices, you just see lots of wonderful things happen. And as Don Dupree says here, it really does help synthesize information. So yes, students are learning, um, in this case, reading from a book, from a novel, and then they're turning that into a different genre, so to speak, a food truck, right? So we go from the literacy of reading to the literacy of food, and they are able to translate to take it from one genre into the next and make it something new. And they're creating, and at the same time, they're creating new meaning for themselves and for others because they will be presenting their findings through this food truck. And it's overall a fun experience. They get to learn a little bit about food trucks and food and the symbolism behind it. And it's something that they don't forget, something they always remember. Oh, that food truck fair. And because it is fun and it was something that they enjoy doing, and at the same time they're learning and synthesizing, so it's everything that we want students to be doing in the classroom. And so this project is perfect for that. And not just this project, but any project that would include some form of creativity, because students really take ownership when they can bring themselves into anything that they are learning. So as I said, the idea is not my own. It's the food truck fair. I was searching for that missing ingredient in my lessons, as I said before. And I stumbled upon Betsy Potesh's for a Facebook page first, and then that led me to her website. It's called nowsparkcreativity.com, and you can see it there in the little monitor screen that is the cover of her Facebook page. I can't play the video that's there right now because it won't record while I'm recording this presentation. But if you go there, you're going to see all kinds of resources that you can use, including the food truck fair. When I first did the food truck, it was pre-COVID, and so I did it face to face. And I was able to download the PDF file with the instructions, with the brainstorming templates for the students to use, with all the requirements, with the rubric at the end. Everything is there and it's free. All you have to do is go to her website and you plug in your email so that you can get the free resources. And the only thing that does is give you every week a little post from Betsy about what new resources she has on her blog. And the blog to me has been a great resource, not just for food trucks, but she has one pager templates on there. She has hexagonal thinking, which is super popular now when you want students to critically think between texts, among texts and genres, blackout poetry templates, and just a plethora of other things. So that's definitely the site you would want to go to if you want to get the free resources that she gives you. And all you have to do is plug in your email and you will get a ton of free resources. And of course, she has some that you can pay for. She has a teacher pay teacher store, and she also has a little teacher group that you can subscribe to so that you can get lesson plans. I get no, I get nothing from this, right? The only reason I'm sharing her page is that it helped me a lot, and I know that any English teacher out there, or anyone who is teaching literacy, can use a lot of her lessons and adapt them, even as low as second grade. So I've been able to do that with the food truck. Been able to adapt it for fifth grade, and definitely will use some of her other ideas once once the new year starts in the library, things that you can use while reading books, and especially doing blackout poetry. Definitely going to try that out, and hexagonal thinking. So the website is again nowsparkcreativity.com. So let's get into it. This is the cover of the instructions. When you first download her instructions, this will be the cover page. It's a literary food truck festival, and all the instructions follow from here. And as I said, I first did this project face to face, and so I was able to download the PDF. And now she has a digital version of it. So this is what I'm showing you is part of the digital versions. It's a little bit different from the one that if you download and want to do it face to face, it looks a little bit different. But this is what I provided to the students in a slideshow. I put a PowerPoint together, included her slides that were given digitally. And she allows the use for one teacher. If you're going to use it, you cannot distribute it to other teachers. She asks you not to do that. If you want it, you just go to her website, put in your email, and then you will get the free digital slides. So this first slide tells the students what the project entails. So, food trucks are everywhere, talks about some famous food trucks, and it says, well, food trucks give a chef a chance to show a lot of personality and creativity. So in this case, we're going to kind of smash books and food trucks together to create some new meaning. And it says, imagine you're creating a food truck to take to a world literary conference. Famous authors, publishers, and journalists are going to be there. English teachers, English students, and are going to be there eating. And your truck is going to represent your text in every possible way. So it gives them a little scenario so that they can kind of place themselves in that mindset. You will make your choices of appearance, theme, and menu based carefully on elements from the text. So what I like about this project is that it has the students constantly defend their choices with details from the text. So they are learning to use evidence and supporting their choices with the evidence from whichever text they choose to showcase. says, be creative, be amazing. We'll be working on the steps along the way together, then viewing each other's creativity during our online literary food truck festival. And of course, this is the digital version. In the face-to-face version, it mentions that we'll be presenting, and that other students will be able to come in and see the presentations. So I'm going to show you all my version of face-to-face, and then how I kind of adapted it into the digital version, and then how I used it with the fifth graders. So one of the slides that she provides is just an empty little food truck, so that students can start designing their empty food trucks. So this is where they get to play around with theme. They can either get a theme from the book or a character from the book and base it off some kind of thematic expression or a characterization of a main, the protagonist, for example, the antagonist, or any character really that they want to focus on. And here on the digital version, if it's a PowerPoint or a Google slide, they're able to add images here. I actually had my students use Canva.com to create their food truck, and I will be explaining that once I get to the digital version. In the face-to-face version, at this point, the students have the handout already, and so they can draw on their food truck. And this is just a brainstorming template. This is not going to be their actual food truck, just for them to get to brainstorming, and then they can actually construct their food truck. In the face-to-face version, I had my students make a food truck or draw a food truck on a poster board. Some of them opted to create one out of cardboard, create a 3D model. But this slide basically is a brainstorming template for them, so they can start thinking about what their food truck's going to look like and what kind of food their food truck will be serving. Another brainstorming template that they have is for the menu. What kind of food are they going to be providing on this food truck? So it says your menu is one of the easiest ways to connect your truck to your understanding of the book. On this page, develop 5 ideas for menu items on the left, and then explain how they represent the choices of your character or important elements of the overall text on the right. So here they can't just list 5 food items, right? They have to have an explanation of why those 5 food items represent something in the text. So for example, they may have seafood because the setting of their book was by the ocean. There were some that read Breathing Underwater, and so that had took place in Florida, and so they some of them had a seafood truck or water, type of elements in their food truck. This is another slide that you'll get, like a brainstorming slide for one of the required elements, which is the crew. And they have to have the truck, they have to have a menu, and then finally you have to have a crew. So we'll get them to think about who their chef will be, who their server will be, social and media marketing coordinator, and why. So the all important question, why, so that they can be using evidence from their text to support their answers and their choices, right? And then there's a spot down at the bottom for additional details, because there are some extra elements that they're allowed to choose from, like a playlist, servingware, a uniform, and other items that they're allowed to choose from. And here's a spot where they can start brainstorming about that. And so here is the slide that gives them the requirements. They're all starred there. So it says for our class food truck festival, everyone will create a virtual display. And of course, this is the digital version, not the face-to-face version. A virtual display showcasing their truck to share with their classmates. In my face-to-face class, the students set up their food trucks in the tutoring classroom that we had at the time, and classes were able to sign up and go in. Other classes from other teachers were able to sign up to go in and see the presentations. But in this digital version, because of distance learning and not all students are in the classroom, and students can't really get up and we can't have visitors in the classroom, there is a way to have a digital showcase. And I'll explain how my fifth graders are doing that digitally. So we're going to spend time viewing everyone's ideas online and choosing ones where we would want to eat. You would all present your food trucks using flipgrid.com. So that's how I was going to have my students, my fifth graders, will be presenting their food trucks. They haven't presented yet. We're still working on the project, but they will be recording a video on their food truck on canva.com, and then they'll be uploading that one into Flipgrid. That way all the students can log into Flipgrid, see each other's videos, and go to each other's food trucks and see each other's presentations. That was the adaptation we had to make due to virtual learning. And here are the required elements that they must have digitally in their video. This is what it must have in their video, but if they're face-to-face, what they had to have in their actual presentation. So the main image, so the food truck itself has to have a title, decorations. If they're digital, they'll be explaining it on their video. This could be a photograph of a physical food truck that you create at home, an embedded video of your project, a digital poster of your project, and of course that is for the digital version. But in face-to-face, they could create a 3D model or they could draw it on a poster board. Those were their two options. I didn't give them an option of a video because they were going to presenting, speaking, right? They were speaking in person about their food truck. They had to have their menu with their 5 listed items, and they were going to give the rationale, how it tied to their text for that menu. The staff, we talked before, they had to have a chef, a server, and a marketing person. And they would be explaining the rationale for those people that they chose, and their video. And the video for the digital version, they had to have a video, and in the video they will be explaining to the audience all the key elements and how it tied into the book. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier about the additional elements for your display. For my fifth graders, I changed that to choose at least one. For the high schoolers, they had to choose, I believe it was 3 additional items. So they could make the food. So face to face, a lot of students actually brought in food that would be served from their food truck. The virtual students, they were allowed to make the food and show it on their video. Maybe they could show the process of how they made it, or just show the finished product and explain why they made the food like that. They could have a food truck playlist. So if they're doing a video, they could actually, play little snippets of the song or just have the songs listed out, and then they could explain to the audience why they chose that music. They could do a sample Instagram feed or for their marketing campaign or any kind of social media that they chose. It tells them maybe you want to do a TikTok or you have Snapchat. You can choose how you want to advertise your food truck. If you want to do like a little billboard or something like that that advertises radio, little audio of what the commercial would sound like. They could do a food server uniform. So I had some students in the face-to-face version where they actually uh, created a uniform and wore it during their presentation. Some of them just drew the uniform on their poster board. Some of them had little models of their uniform. One student read Monster, and this was in the high school class, read Monster, and so the uniforms were prison uniforms. Their servingware items. I would advise them just go dollar store and get a little paper plate, get a little pack of plates, forks and cups, and then you can put paint your design on it, put a sticker on it, or whatever, however you want to design it. In the digital version, it's very easy on Canva just to put some servingware on a slide and then to decorate it with the theme of their truck. Any other idea, they just had to run it by me first just to make sure it was acceptable. So those are all the required elements in the presentation, and this is what I go over with them at the very beginning, the first day. All right, so part 2 here is showcasing some of what my high school students were able to complete at Mission Early College High School. This is in the Socorro district, and they were transitioning from 9th grade into 10th grade. I always looped up with the students. So if I had them in 9th grade, I went up with them into 10th grade. And then the next year I go back down to 9th and loop up with them to 10th grade. So in the summer between 9th and 10th, I would have them do summer reading. So usually first I would always have them do some book tasting. And once they decided on the book that they were going to read, I went over the expectations with them. And then at the end of summer, the beginning of the school year, about a week into school, is when they present their food trucks. So you can see one student's food truck. He read Monster. You can see a ball and chain there because that was the theme of his truck. It was a prison truck, says it was based on Monster. You can see his little menu down at the bottom, and his poster board had some of the elements explained. You can kind of see a little peek of the orange prison uniform that was in the middle. He actually sewed cloth together and made it look like a little shirt and pants. It was the orange prison uniform. So I'll be explaining that uh, how that procedure worked. All right, so here is the timeline for my high schoolers from going from ninth into 10th grade. So before the end of school, we did some book tasting in the classroom. They were given a choice of about 12 books. I had little class sets of those books, and so I had read them all, and I made sure to read them all too, so that when they were presenting, I was be able to evaluate them well, since I had read the book. So I set up in the classroom, made it look like a little cafe, and I set up the books, had little candles, tablecloths, and what they were tasting were the books. And they had a little flyer where they could write down some of their initial observations of books, and in the end, they narrowed down their favorite choice, and that's the book that they took with them over the summer to read. So it kind of gave them some ownership and choice. And, research shows that when students have choice, uh, more reading happens than when it's forced upon them. And so it worked out really well. Most students seemed to enjoy the book they had gotten. And some of them asked, well, can I take all three? Because I really like these three. And of course, I'm never going to say, no, don't read more than one book. So over the summer, they had to read the book. I told them, keep notes of different things that you notice along the way, like what type of food would be good, at certain points in the book, or which characters would work best for your crew. And so they did some little brainstorming over the summer, and they had the packet to take with them. Remember, these are the face-to-face students. So they had the little packet with them, and they were going to turn in those brainstorming sheets to me when they came back from the summer. And of course, make the food truck. We didn't present day one, day two, because coming back to school, that a lot of schedule changes happen. It's a craziness of the first days of school. So I programmed it for at the end of the second week of school, and that's when they presented. So I'm back at school, they had that first week kind of like to prepare the presentation. Procrastinators were able to finish up projects. And then I had already set aside the tutoring center, had scheduled my students to be in there for 2 days, since we had A schedule and B schedule. 2 days, and then I sent to the faculty a sign up sheet, a Google form where they could sign up at whichever time period they wanted to take their students. It was mostly freshman classes that came in to see what the new sophomore classes were doing. So it was nice for them to see what they would be doing soon when they would join my class. They had something to look forward to. And so that was for me to do, make up the sign up sheet, secure the place where we are going to be presenting. And then the day of presentations, they went and set up their food trucks. I gave all the students a purple food ticket because they were not only going to be presenting their food trucks, but they were going to be able to visit each other's food trucks and have a sampling. Some students brought in actual food, and so those are the popular ones. Everyone wanted to get the little food samples. And on their food ticket, they filled out certain elements, and they got to choose certain trucks to go to. They didn't have to go to all of them because there was certainly not enough time to visit every single food truck. And so I found this to be a powerful way for students to also take ownership of their project because they had an audience other than each other. And since it was a new school year, they didn't have the same classmates. Their schedules had changed. And then they were presenting to other classes, mostly freshman classes, but other upperclassmen also went. And so I thought this was a good chance for them to get those presenting skills and, to get over those jitters and to really own their project and to take pride in it. And it worked out really well. So I'll show you some pictures coming up on the next slides of what some of their projects look like. All right, so here are a few pictures. You can see how we set up kind of like in a horseshoe formation. We left the middle open, and that's where the students who came in to view the projects were going around and looking. So it was the projects facing inward toward in the shoehorn. So upper left corner, you have a truck based on, and then there were none. The Agatha Christie novel. So you can see how she has the drawing out of the island out there. She created the uniform. She has her staff. So she is one that decided to draw everything on different papers. You can see the students who are visiting, they're writing down information that they had to keep track of on their purple food ticket. So that's what the audience was doing as they went around. And then they turned those into me because they were rating the food trucks that they visited. And I wanted to share that back with the class once we got into the classroom. In the right corner there, you have a student who read Pride and Prejudice. So as you could see, her truck looks more like an old-fashioned wagon. And so she wanted to have that older look to her food truck, a little wagon-looking one. I could see that some of costumes are dresses. You could see them kind of peeking out of her poster board, the fancy dresses. The lower left corner is Frostbite, and this was based on the book. Oh my goodness, I am blanking on the book. It was the portrait of Dorian Gray, the picture of Dorian Gray. And so frostbite being, the frostiness of his nature and of his sins that he's committing. So that one was a food truck that was created, a 3D version, holding it out for the camera there. And then lower right corner is the book Breathing Underwater. You can see the water elements that I alluded to earlier. And the drawings there are beautiful. She has a uniform down at the bottom. You can see some of the crew members and her menu also. So students were very creative. There was all different types of food trucks there. And it was just amazing to see what they came up with. So here's the example of the meal ticket that I give the students. Betsy Potash does provide these in the packet if you download it. I just retyped the questions and I put it behind a little ticket template that I got online for free. So there is a spot for their name and their teacher who they're coming with, and then the questions that they're required to answer. And I use that to give the students feedback once we're back in the classroom. All right, our third and final stop here is my students here at Western Hills. I'm doing it with the fifth graders. And so I noticed, but since I am subscribed to Betsy Potash's blog, I get little weekly updates. And she did mention how she had refurbished this project into a digital project. And she even showcased some teachers who had done it with their students using different technology, right? So because we had everyone gone virtual and face to face, it was no longer possible, but you can still do this project using tools that were given to us during virtual learning. And so my students are doing it since I do have a few face-to-face and a lot of virtual students. So we are using canva.com and flipgrid.com. So canva.com is the site where we are using to get just a blankest food truck we can find, and then sprucing it up with the theme of the book that the students have chosen. and then they're going to, on Canva, record a video. And we're lucky in that we are given an educator's site on Canva, and the students do have the option to record, present, and record a presentation. It will turn it into a video. They download this video, and then they will upload it into Flipgrid. There is a little truck that I made for them as a sample. So I created my food truck off of Wonder by RJ Palacio. I named my food truck Augie's Lunches because he does spend time in the cafeteria, eats little sandwiches. And right now, I had just given it to them just as a little example, so I didn't get specific with what the sandwiches would be, but I explained to them, I have 4 sandwiches. Somehow sandwich 2 disappeared, but it was on the truck. And each of those 4 sandwiches is going to be named after one of the friends that he makes along the way, and then his amazing Augie drink. And I say in my presentation, I will get specific with what the ingredients are and why, how they tie back to each of those characters. So kind of like mine is kind of like a character truck, not very thematic. It's more based on the characters. And there you can see Augie waving to us. I have a little headphone icon because my plan is to include a playlist off of Augie's likes in the book that I notice. I know Star Wars is one of his favorites, so I probably definitely have the Star Wars theme song playing on that truck. So it's just a little sample that I make for the students, showing them, what a finished product could look like. All right, so here is a timeline I give my students. Now, I don't have the luxury of carrying over the students. I'm not gonna have the exact same students from like I did with Mission and from 9th to 10th grade. A lot of these students, yes, are coming back to school, but I'm not going to require summer reading of them. And so I want to do this project, toward the end of the year, something fun that they can do. And just have them read anything that they want, really. I tell them they can choose the book. I did not do book tasting with these students, but I definitely will do it when next year when I do this project. And I'm probably going to include 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders because I see the 5th graders had no problem understanding the requirements and doing it. So I will most likely include 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade next year, but I will do some book tasting first. So that's something I will change. So I started this at the beginning of May, and it's just me. Next year, I would probably also include the teachers and have them work with a novel that they choose in their classes after I've introduced them to some books. So the book tasting, and if I work with the teachers, then I can assure that the students are reading, and then I can help with the discussion of the book and then help with the creation of this project. So it may take a little longer than a month next year, and that's fine because I just want to make sure that the students are discussing the book with me also, and I can help them see how their books can be turned into the food truck as we go along. But for now, this is what I did with the 5th graders I am working on, and it was an experiment. I decided, well, let's see how 5th graders respond to this project, and so far, it seems that they are doing well. Some of them have already completed their project, made a video, and uploaded it to Flipgrid. And they've done it before the due date. So the first week, and since I have 3 classes of 5th grade and they're on different days, I just put it by week, right? So I say week of May 3rd, you have to have chosen your book. The week previous to that, I did show them different ways that they can get a book. We could go over Mayan, Mac and Via, Epic, and I'd say, of course, you can place a hold and do curbside pickup and pick up a book. You can use a book that you have at home. You can go to your public library, get a book. So the previous week before, I tell them, have a book chosen by the week of May 3rd. So that week, all that week, start reading your book. And I broke it up kind of like into fourths. I have a month to read their book, so I think that's good. They can break it into fourths. And as you're reading, start thinking about your food truck name, possible menu items. I go over the PowerPoints that I've already shown you all, the slides that have the instructions, that have the expectations, that have the brainstorming templates. and I put it on Schoology for them so they can access it at any time. Excuse me, they can download that PowerPoint and have these instructions, whenever they need to go back to them. Following week is when I introduce them to Canva. So I say, this is where you're going to start creating your food truck. So, by this time, you should have read at least half your book, or during this week, get through half of your book. Start thinking of who your staff members could be, brainstorming, start using Canva to kind of test it out. And I take them to canva.com and I show them how to get the templates, how to use the menu there, and how to start designing a food truck. And I kind of make a very simple one with them right there in class. The following week, you should have read more of your book. We're going to think of our additional element because they need one more element beside the 3 required elements, one more additional element. And this is where I introduced them to Flipgrid. Some of the students had used it for orchestra, so that was awesome. All orchestra teachers, students, sorry, already knew how to use Flipgrid, and I basically just had to introduce it to those other 5th graders who didn't have orchestra yet. And I showed them how to record a simple video there. Although I discovered while helping a student with her Canva project, I discovered that we can record videos on Canva. And so the week of May 31st, which was last week, right before right before this week, I showed them how on Canva they can record a video. And I suggested they all do the video on Canva and download it there. It's simple. It's just like using a PowerPoint. You have your slides there. You record your video, download it, and then you can upload it to Flipgrid. So this week they should be finishing up, and then the following week they'll be presenting. And I tell them, have your videos already uploaded before the week of presentations, because if you let them download them there during class time, the site will probably crash on them. I experienced this before on Flipgrid when everybody was on the site at once. So I tell them to have it already up there during the week sometime, finish up your project and upload it. Sometimes it takes a while, and depending on your Wi-Fi, how good it is, it might take a while to upload the video. And so this is the timeline that I give them. I've kind of talked about canva.com already. So I'm just going to talk about it a little bit more here. So going to canva.com. Through school, I have an educator account. So all I did was search for educator account when I went to canva.com. And since I was already connected to my Google school account, it automatically transformed it into an educator account. In that educator account, I'm able to add classes. So I made 3 different 5th grade classes, and then I'm able to invite the students to join that class by plugging in their email. So I get their email from Schoology and invite them. I tell them on the next class when I was going to introduce Canva to them, I told them, everyone go and check your email. I have invited you to join my class. And if they didn't see it, because some students said, no, I didn't get it, or for some reason they didn't have the invite. In the class itself, it will give you a link, an invite link. So I went ahead and copied it and put it in the chat while we were on Zoom, and they were able to join with that link. And they join with their Microsoft account, their school account. That way it's all vetted and safe. And that's the way they joined my class. And in there, I'm able to share templates with them. I was able to show them Augie's food truck that I had made. I made this one really quickly there with them. I called it the 5th grade library class food truck pizza. So I make one there with them just so I can show to them how easy it is. I have them choose a poster template and the landscape poster template. Just to make it easy, I said, let's just all do the same one. We're all going to choose poster. We're going to go to landscape poster. We're going to choose this white truck or any truck that's blank. I tell them, don't choose a truck that already has a lot of decoration on it, because then you didn't design it, right? The Canva designed it for you. So I tell them, choose the blankest food truck you can find. And then I show them how the menu on the left-hand side, they can upload pictures. So I had my emoji, my Bitmoji, I was able to upload it there. You can add text, and there's all kinds of text you can add, like neon signs with the text. You can add elements. Elements is, I tell them, is the favorite. Going to be where you use a lot of items from elements because you can get images from there. You can get the little stickers that move, so you can make a GIF out of your food truck, which is what I did here and how I added it to my slide. So there's a lot of cool elements they can use from the element feature. They can change the background. As you can see, I kind of have like a abstract art in the background, but they can put landscapes in the background. So if you want to match your setting, there's a really pretty one of mountains. It's like if you're doing Heidi, Heidi's your book, up in the mountains in the Swiss Alps. And so that's how I introduce Canva to them. And they can even submit their assignment to you for review. And so some students have already submitted a little brainstorming idea that they had to me, and I send them feedback. You can send them some feedback. So I noticed you misspelled this word. Don't forget that you need to have your menu added to it. And I gave them some feedback that way. I send it back to them, and then they can fix whatever they need to fix. So it's just a very basic overview of how Canva works. All right, so what you see here is the canva.com area where the students would work. So you're given a little canvas. Before I was telling you about elements, how students are going to use a lot of those items from the elements. So that's where they can choose people, they can choose different images to put on, including the stickers that move. So as I said earlier, some students are already finishing their projects or submitting to me some rough drafts of their projects. And so here you can see a student has done 3 slides in Canva of her food truck. Would you like some lemonade? So it looks like she's going with a thematic design for her truck, lemonade and llama being the pun. Then she's got a cute little uniform that she's already created and a menu. And when she submits this to me on Canva, I am able to give her some feedback of things that she can fix. For example, the spelling of llama. So we're nearing the end of our food truck tour here, the last one being flipgrid.com, and this is where the students would be able to upload their videos. I made some discussion boards on there for each of the 5th grade classes, and that is where they are able to upload their video. They can also produce videos on Flipgrid, but as I said before, we discovered we can create them on Canva, and then the students simply have to go to Flipgrid. I give them the code and the link to join my class here on Flipgrid as well, and they're able to upload their videos. And the reason why I have them come here is that it's an easy platform for students to come and see each other's videos, and they can leave each other feedback as well, which I will require. And I'm also going to give them a little digital ticket, and they can give some feedback that way to me, so it shows me that they went to each of the trucks and what they thought, and then they'll submit the digital food truck ticket to me via Schoology. So we've arrived at the end of the food truck tour, and I want to leave you with a quote from the article that I first began with. And it says, the most important reason to teach with creativity is one that is rarely assessed, but is key to a child's educational success. They'll love school. So I hope that I am giving you some ideas on how to incorporate food trucks into reading or into anything really that they can connect food with. And you will leave students with joy, because I have already heard them say fun a lot of times in this project. And they'll be synthesizing, they'll be learning, but at the same time, they'll be enjoying what they're doing. And in the end, that's what we want for our students. So I want to say thank you to Slides Mania for giving me their awesome templates. Anyone can get these templates for free. Slidesmania.com. They can get the Google version or the Microsoft PowerPoint version. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at vmvolans@episd.org, and the library number is also there. Be happy to answer any questions you have, and happy food trucking.
Ms. Valenzuela, I just want to take a moment and say thank you so much for your presentation. What an amazing project. And I'm I can imagine the excitement of your students doing this. And I just cannot thank you enough for sharing this and being part of our land. Everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for being part of this session, session 4. We have one more session coming up, session 6. That will start at 2:55. Y'all take care, stay safe. I will be closing this session in just a moment. All the best.